And then, on the seventh day, God rested. But then, he realized it was a little boring. And he was sort of horny. You know, all work and no play. Anyway, on the seventh day, God made masturbation, and it was good. As a matter of fact, it was so good, yeah, like moved mountains good, because God's cock makes a billionaire's cock look like a Chinese dude's little dink. But I digress. Welcome to the Chanel Ashby podcast, where we discuss and review erotica as well as fetishes, fucking, and all forms of smut. It's like Chanel's doing God's work every day. Please join us for another episode of the podcast brought to you by the EIP Network. Talent on loan from my cock. Excellence in porn. Episode 14. Hi, Chanel.
Hi, Chris.
How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Good. Did you have a good week?
I did.
It was an excellent week, wasn't it?
It really was.
Weather was nice, and you are shooting up the charts on Amazon.
Get it? Shooting.
Right. Squirt, squirt.
Right. I am. Aunt Penelope's Finishing School for Girls is currently number 6 in transgender erotica, which is the category where most sissy erotica is found.
That's like their house.
Right.
Right. And you've got other ones in the top 25 still, too.
I do.
Yeah, Chanel's goal is to basically log in and look at transgender erotica and her name just be the top 20.
It's just me.
Right.
Me.
Own
It's like
it.
the rest of my life where it's all about me.
Right. This is my house, bitches. Get out. Right.
Really, basically, yes.
Right. So
This makes me sound like such a bitch, but yeah, you're right on.
You're an excellent writer. I don't think wanting to dominate a category is wrong.
Right. Especially not over and over and over again.
It's like you like it.
Yeah.
Right. So, once again, I was on the road this week selling.
Where were you?
I was in New Jersey.
Ooh,
A lot of frustrated housewives and gay men in New Jersey.
yeah, I can imagine.
The Wilbur did very, very well.
Oh, good.
Right. Well, I parlayed our success in Manhattan from a couple months ago and just decided that I was going to just take over that market.
Any strip clubs that you hit up in New Jersey?
I did not, though I did go by the legendary Bada Bing Club.
Ooh.
Which is right on Route 17 in New Jersey, about only 25 miles from lovely Manhattan.
How are the girls in the Bada Bing?
I did not, sadly, get a chance to stop in.
Oh, well, you'll have to do that next
Right,
time.
all work and no play made me a little
Right.
dull this week, so I was glad to get back here and spend some time with you.
I do think that maybe the girls in the Bada Bing might be a little above your normal caliber of girl. I don't think that the Bada Bing girls are going to let you rub wing sauce all over them.
Well, that doesn't seem right because who doesn't like a good wing sauce?
I'm going to say go with caution.
Well,
I'd hate to see you get kicked out on your ass by a big burly New Jersey bouncer.
Right, New Jersey Shore. Well,
right, he's got like no neck.
Right, and just tats all up and down his arm.
Right, and just his dink is tiny because he's been doing roids for however long.
Right.
Because his dink and his neck both like
You would think,
disappear in
and all those bouncers seem to date the strippers, but
yeah,
you would think the strippers, being in that profession, would know that it's a tiny dink. Why are they like hanging out with that dude?
Yeah, well, because they work too much. That you wind up dating whoever you meet. So who are they going to meet?
That's true. Big percentage of people do date within their work.
Right. Never works out.
Not usually. No.
What did you read this week, Chris?
I read a couple interesting stories. the first one, How to Build Your Harem in 10 Easy Steps, I thought this is perfect for me.
Right?
Because,
it's like a how-to.
Right? And 10 steps, I can do 10.
It's not like 21 or
Oh, that's, no, you got to commit to that. 10 is like, well, I knocked those out in like 2 days, and all of a sudden I got a harem.
Right? Wow.
And I have not been the luckiest with the ladies the past couple years.
Right?
So thank God the Wilbur's really coming through, because I've got like 5 alimony payments that I got to make every month. It's not easy. And it's very frustrating when your ex is driving a nicer car than you are, because you're paying for it.
Right?
Right? That's not good. So, How to Build Your Harem in 10 Easy Steps by, well, I don't know the pronunciation, if it's Rubirosa or Rubirosa.
Ooh, I think you should call it Rubirosa.
I'm choosing Rubirosa too, but that's Rubirosa. So, and this really, for being as bad as it really is chock full of helpful tidbits. Like, did you know that the size of a harem bed needs to be 12 by 14 feet?
No, I did not know that.
Right? He's done a lot of research, it seems.
Wow, I guess so.
Because if you're going to have 4 to 6 women in bed with you, I guess you don't, you want your own space.
That's true. You don't want to have to cuddle. Don't you just kick out the harem girls when you're done and you want to go to sleep?
He does not specify what you do with the harem girls when you're done with it. Though, the harem girls should be very satisfied, because he goes by the philosophy that every woman in your harem should have an hour of vaginal sex every day. And by doing so, you increase your stamina, which, oddly enough, is one of the 10 steps. Increase your stamina.
Okay. So when does he go to work? If he fucks every chick in his harem for an hour a day?
Well, that's only like 6 hours a day. You got 18 hours to work. So step up. And of course, he makes also a very interesting point that the more time you spend fucking the women in your harem, the less time you're arguing with them. Which
if you have a harem, you're going to be arguing with them.
Right. That's a lot. You're outnumbered estrogen by 5 to 1.
Right.
So
they're all going to sync up their period.
Right.
So they're going to be a week of your life, or you just want to die.
Maybe that's the week you work. When they're all on the rag, right. You gotta go.
On the road.
Right. So this is written in the voice of Samson, the legendary barbarian who, according to reports, have slept with more than 5,000 women in his life.
Wow.
Right. He's quite the coxman, is really what he is. So, and of course, his first step in building a harem is become a legend.
Oh, well.
Because once you're a legend, it's a lot easier to build a harem. The women really want to, they want to hang with you then. Right. And so once you become a legend, step 2, which seems very logical to me, is recruit 4 to 6 women.
Okay.
So, and then he even lays out the math. So you don't want to get 4 or 6 women like in the same day. What you do is you pick up 1 woman a day, like Monday through Thursday. Okay. And then on Friday, you invite Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday over. And then like on Sunday, you're inviting Thursday and Saturday, maybe somebody from Friday. Oh. And of course, all these women need to be at the very least bi-curious.
Well, that would help.
Right, because sometimes you just want to kick back and, watch the action. So thankfully, he laid out the math for us so we can all figure it out.
Right.
So, but I think step 3, the most important of the 10 steps, which is...
Get a box.
Put your junk in a box. God bless Saturday Night Live. So, no, step 3 is grow an enormous cock.
Oh.
Right?
Why didn't anyone tell anyone to do that before?
Personally, I would have made that step 1.
Right.
And then lead from there. Now, sadly, he does not actually tell you how to grow an enormous cock, though he does describe himself as having a 13.5-inch cock, and apparently even goes on to point out that he markets the replicas of his cock in a dildo form. So even
He's kind of stepping on your toes over there.
right, even in the back. Well, this just goes to show you how far back my job career path goes, because Samson was from like the Middle Ages. He was basically a barbarian.
Oh, okay. So Samson from, this is confusing now. So he's Samson from like biblical times.
Right.
Okay, he's not, that's why he doesn't need a job.
Right. Well, he conquers is basically what he describes his job as. He's a conqueror
So he's like,
of lands and women.
he's a life coach.
Right. So, and he points out that the best place to meet women, are the wenches at the bar, the barmaids and wenches.
Like the Hooters.
Right. The Hooters of biblical times. So, and of course, if you're a legend and you have inexhaustible stamina,
And you hang out at Hooters.
you don't even need to like toot your own horn, so to speak, because women talks amongst themselves.
Bible Hooters.
And the legends of your cocksmithing will go before you.
Right.
So it doesn't hurt that he's got 6-pack abs either.
Right. That never hurt anyone.
No, now I will say this is a terrible story.
Okay.
This is the worst thing I've read short of like romance, because it actually doesn't tell you anything. And what makes matters worse is there actually is no smut in it.
Oh.
He doesn't actually talk about fucking anyone in his harem. He gives you these ridiculous 10 steps like grow a bigger cock. Though I will say that the fact that he used the word Jezebel, which I personally love the word Jezebel, and I think is totally underused, I did enjoy.
I think they should have a vibrator. That's the Jezebel.
Named Jezebel.
Right.
I like that. I'm going to take that to R&D and see what they can do with it.
Right.
That'd be cool. So I'm going to say if you literally have nothing else to do while you're taking a shit, because maybe Angry Birds wasn't loading.
Like when the wireless is, you know what?
Right,
the wireless here in the studio doesn't really work in the bathroom. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'll have to get a network cable in there for you. See,
And not because I do anything in the bathroom, but I just happen to have my phone with me while going that way.
right, listeners, just so you know, we are stout advocates for doing nothing but your business in the bathroom.
Unless, it's part of sex.
Right. Well, that's different.
If you're pooping in someone's mouth, you should do that in the bathroom.
Right. Or golden showers are pretty good in the bathroom.
Right.
Because it minimizes cleanup later.
Right.
Though you're really going to make the person who you're peeing on clean up. So I guess to some extent it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you don't want to have any kind of pee or poo on your own bed.
Right.
Because, once you kick that person out, you don't want the reminder of it.
Right. And of course, if you've got a harem and you've got a 12 by 14 foot bed, that's a pretty big bed to clean up.
Right.
And or replace. Because I bought a new bed, or as my grandfather used to call it, a workbench last week. I went real fancy too. I went from the Ritz-Carlton collection.
Ooh, really?
Right. Yeah, I'm not used to having a bed that nice.
Did you just all spread out and just fart on it and get your stink on it?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Kind of got the bed in, slept in it one night, and then had to go back on the road.
Oh, so tonight's going to be a big bed marking night.
Right.
Lots of jizz.
Well, it's Sunday. It's going to be Sunday afternoon. So all the other dudes are going to be watching football because football season's back on. And all their wives and girlfriends are going to be out at the mall. So I'm going hunting this afternoon.
Oh, good job. Sniff one down.
Right. A little frustrated knowing that she's got 16 weeks of no husband.
Right.
And that's about the length of most relationships I've been in. So that'll be perfect.
Can get a new Tadasha.
I'm hoping. The search is always on
for
the new Mrs. Chris P.
Sport fucking is the best kind. So you're not recommending this story?
No, it's total boner down, but it was kind of funny, and it even started out by explaining that this showed up in modern times because it was forwarded through the new app, the Ouija app. So, which is going to be like the new Pinterest. So that basically it's a time machine app.
Oh, okay. So right off the bat, you knew that this was not going to be good.
No, it was pretty bad. So 34 pages of not worth reading. So anything by Ruba Rosa, who you can find all over, maybe take a pass.
Really? Okay. Good to know.
You read a lot this week.
I did. I was very into reading. I got distracted by a couple of these stories where I told myself I'm not reading that. But then I actually got into it. And one story that I wanted to tell you about.
Because you knew I'd like it.
Well, it's worth mentioning because very rarely is something written that is so clearly written by a dude for dudes.
Really?
This is just straight up. It's for dudes. The author's name is V as in Victor, C as in Charlie Hammond. And I'm going to go out there and say that this is one of the most original erotica story ideas.
Oh, you'll need to email that to me.
Right. And the story itself, maybe not like so hot. But again, it's one of those stories where I was reading it and I was laughing my ass off. So, V.C. Hammond has other stories, is on Amazon. It looks like all of this particular author's stories are pretty original. And I'm going to check out the story called Milked by the Mad Scientist.
Oh,
because,
nice.
Again, sounds pretty creative, pretty original. I could not masturbate to this story. Let me tell you this. The title of the story I read was called Stuck in Time at the Office. So it's a long title. I could not probably masturbate to it, but it's very interesting, and it made me die laughing.
You couldn't masturbate to it because it was too long or it just wasn't hot enough?
Because it wasn't hot enough, and I was laughing too much.
Right.
The guy is set up at work when he's hit on by a female coworker, and he finds out later that she's done this kind of thing before. It's all set up. She complains about this person supposedly sexually harassing her, and then she gets promoted and that person gets fired. So, but what this woman, whose name is Ms. Becker, doesn't know is that the main character of the story has the ability to stop time.
Lucky him.
Right. So he can just walk in somewhere because he does yoga and something about yoga and stopping time.
Do you know how I know you're gay? You're a dude that does yoga. Right. This is probably the same dude that has a man bun.
Right. Exactly.
Hey, you look like a geisha.
But he comes back to work the next day when he's about to get fired. He stops time and he makes Miss Becker finger his asshole when it's kind of not clean. So she has a poo finger.
Wait, if time is stopped, I'm picturing an office with Miss Becker and this person. Time is stopped, so she is like frozen.
She's like frozen, but she's still alive, and he can make her do things like stick her finger out and like make her fuck him in the ass with her finger, so that it's like a poop finger.
Right, nice.
And
which is most dudes, I guess.
Exactly, and then
not very good with the cleanliness down there.
He teabags one of his office mates that he doesn't like.
Wow, he does take the I'm going to get fired and burn it down to the ground to a whole new level, doesn't he?
Right, and then he fucks the woman who, is complaining about him sexually harassing her because he figures I'm already in trouble for it. I might as well. So it's funny, and it's totally written by a dude for dudes. I'm only giving it 2.5 boners. If you like revenge sex and can stop yourself from laughing, you might actually come. But I'm going to look for more things by that author. It's very funny. So V.C. Hammond. That's my funny joke guy for the week.
Nice.
Right.
That's what it would. So like 1 boner, 2 boners.
I said 2.5.
2.5. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I know. You get your pants down. You're
I was kind of stroking myself.
An
itch.
Right.
So, hey, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I try and use it whenever I can.
Right. I don't think that not using it for like a half an hour means that you're going to lose it, though. I'm just going to go out there and say that, you could probably keep your pants on for like an hour, but whatever.
You don't have a dick, so you don't know.
You don't know that I don't have a dick.
That's true. Probably bigger than mine, actually.
Okay, so what else did you read, Chris?
I actually read Twink Tinkle Torture by Adam Small, and Adam can be found in all the usual outlets. Now, this is told from the vantage point of a twink, because he describes himself as a 145-pound, 18-year-old boy who goes off to school.
Excellent.
Right.
This is where all the good things happen.
Right.
As soon as you turn 18.
18, everything magical happens when you turn 18. So, and goes off to school, and of course the one thing you can count on when you go off to college is getting a hot roommate.
Right.
Right, because there's no ugly people at college, at least not in porn world.
No.
So he meets his roommate, and of course he's been describing how he's got a little bit of a foot and tickle fetish prior to going off to college, which why he denotes he must only have a hot roommate who is at the very least bi-curious. So his roommate moves in, and he's got this box that he brings in, kind of lugs into the room, and of course the main protagonist asks what's in the box. And the dude says, just some stuff, and puts it away. Never looks at the box, never touches the box. Well, of course, you can't have a mysterious wooden box that our hero won't accidentally look in.
Right.
Every night for like 2 months, where he finds ropes and handcuffs and toe cuffs. I didn't even know there were toe cuffs.
Excellent.
Right.
Toe cuffs.
Right.
This is interesting.
It is. So then, of course, for the 2 months he's looking in the box, he's beating off to like the thought of using all these lovely little devices on his roommate until, of course, he opens up the box one night, and inside the box it says, I know you're looking. Dun, dun, dun. Right. So then, the next night, he's got the box open, and guess who comes home early?
The roommate?
Right. Spoiler alert. Right. So then, this then leads into about 35 pages of him tying up the roommate and tickling him.
Okay, the twink gets tied up?
No, the roommate. Of course, the roommate's 18 too, so they're both it's probably
Really?
twink on twink.
That's interesting. So it's a dominant twink.
Right. Yeah, very much so.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I mean, to the point that, he keeps calling him boy. So you know how you get the daddy things like, suck it, boy.
Yeah.
Take it, boy. Yeah, so he's got an 18-year-old calling another 18-year-old boy, but he's got him hog-tied. And, of course, he's got the toe cuffs on and is basically tickling him all over. A lot of armpit tickling, a lot of foot tickling. He does spend a fair amount of time at the beginning of the story talking about, the dude wearing sandals, living the flip-flop lifestyle.
So he's got a foot thing.
He has very much a foot and tickle thing. So 34 pages of tickle torture. And then he rubs one out all over the hog-tied dude's back.
Nice.
And then gives him the reach around and strokes him off.
Nice.
So if you like tickle and a little BDSM, this probably is a good story.
There's not a lot of foot fetish erotica, considering that there's a lot of people that have a foot
which is
fetish.
Surprising considering that, right?
Yeah.
That you think there'd be a lot more, but the problem, I think, is that can you get 3,000 to 5,000 words out of basically foot fetish?
I think maybe, that's probably the challenge. I think you definitely could, but you would have to be creative about it.
Right. Okay, so then you write the story. Then you've got to write more stories. I mean, you really got to... Yeah, I think you could do it. I don't know that a lot of other people could.
I think you have to go through the whole genre. Like, you're going to have stories where you're talking about like squishing food with the toes and dirty feet and smelling socks and dirty pantyhose and feet. I mean, like, you'd really have to delve into all of it.
Have to go deep, so to speak.
Right.
So, of course. So, it's pretty, I mean, if you like that type of stuff, I mean, I'm going to give it 3 boners up. What I did find very interesting, unlike many erotic authors who say, okay, well, email me or look at my profile on Amazon or Smashwords. And so this dude, Adam Small, and I really hope it doesn't refer to as dank, because that's not cool.
Right.
This author actually gives what looked like his email address, and the fact that he lives somewhere in Tennessee, specifies that he was born in 1978.
Wow.
So if you're into that age range and you're between 18 and 45, he would like to be contacted for tickling and bondage get-togethers. So you can look up Adam Small, and if you're down in Tennessee and you want someone to tie you up,
wow,
and then tickle you unrelentlessly and apparently come all over your back, that it could be a love connection, right? So
wow, I can just never. I'm never surprised, or I'm always surprised at how willing people are to give out their personal information. Like, that just astounds me. That blows my mind.
And
it's the internet.
And the fat cows that write romance never put their own personal information out there. It's always some picture of some diva somewhere who's like a size 4.
I think you have to protect your... I mean, like, go back to Ashley Madison. Why are you giving your real email address? Like, why are you... There's so many ways to put that wall up so that someone doesn't have instant access to you.
I agree. I wasn't happy to see Chris P. Loves 69 at gmail.com on the Ashley Madison list.
Right? Especially when it was on there like 5 different times.
You know, I had to have multiple accounts because I was looking for multiple different things.
Right?
And
I know. Well,
right?
When you're looking for your 7 friends to go to the Super 8.
Right? And you don't want them all to know each other. You want them all to be friends, like, right when they meet.
Right.
Like, that's the closest thing I ever got to a harem is, my little swinger parties.
Yeah.
So, break open the box wine, some chips, and just see where the night takes you.
A boxed wine.
We like it, the box sangria. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's a good vintage. Good year for box sangria.
February was a great month for making sangria, right? Best if used by. Because once you break that seal, you got to drink it.
Right.
It won't last forever.
That you could say that about other things as well.
Right.
Which brings me to the second story that I read this week, because it was all about watching someone go pee. But actually, it was about something entirely different. I'm going to tell you about the story that I read that actually disturbed me.
Well, you said it was actually written in a voice that, way close to home, in the sense that this author probably lived through this.
Right. The story is called Sis, like your sister, Sis, by Joe Zito. And I did think that if we ever did a best of show, that this particular story needs to be in there, because it is the weirdest and maybe the creepiest story.
I think we should do that. I think we're going to go visit South America in November on a dildo expedition.
Right.
And so, that's right, listeners, we're going on the road. But that week, we will not be putting up a new show, so that maybe we can put together the best of the erotica that we've reviewed up to that point.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. Well, this one would be the creepiest story ever. Now, the story was secondarily categorized as horror. It was called Menage Erotica, but also horror erotica. And I get that, some people get off on horror erotica. Being scared is a turn on. Great. But this is actually really scary. And Joe Zito is a horror author. And this story isn't available anywhere but Smashwords, but that's because it's actually just incest and couldn't have it anywhere else. The wind-up is that the main character's mom works second shift, so every night he's home alone with his big sister. And one night he walks in on her while she's peeing. And then rather than send him away or whatever, the sister tells him that it's fine for him to watch. The author does a great job of describing what you would see and smell and hear. And
so he's a good writer.
He's a very good writer, and it's like a very, if you were into a piss fetish at all, it's going to be extremely hot that way. It's not really a story so much as it's a narrative about something that actually happened. That's what I'm going with. He keeps watching her pee, and then, he is a young boy, because the way he reacts to it, it's like he's getting an erection, but he doesn't know what that is. Well, when you're 18, you know what your erection is.
Right. But if you're like 10.
Right, and maybe
not
never,
so much.
Exactly. So then pretty soon he's masturbating, the story develops, and then the mom finds out that he's been watching his sister, and she takes him into her bedroom and proceeds to give him a blowjob.
That's punishment for watching the sister pee.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So
welcome to manhood.
The sister, mother, and the little boy have a threesome, which includes pee-pee. So I'm going to say, if you're a dude who likes incest and pee-pee, that it's a 5-boner story, because it's extremely vividly written. I mean, you get the idea really well. I'm going to say, for me personally, it was a 3-boner story, because there's a very Norman Bates kind of quality to it. Which,
so you could have masturbated to it if it wasn't kind of like scary?
I don't know if I could have really masturbated to it, but I appreciate it as a narrative.
As a fellow writer.
Right. I just thought, like, it was really well written, but the dude is underage in the story, but the author changes it at the ending, and I'm not going to spoil that, to make it out where it's like not really underage, but it's the craziest fucking story ever. So go to Smashwords, get Sis by Joe Zito. There's a toilet on the cover, which is perfect. And just read it for the general sense of a well-crafted short story.
Or if you're into that thing, spank it while you read it.
All right. Or
right.
If you wish your mom would have blown you every time you were a naughty boy when you were little, then there you go.
Well, I think there's a segment of the audience out there that may really work for them.
Hey, little boys and their mommies, there's a lot of issues there.
Right.
Thank God.
You also read one other one, didn't you?
My favorite story that I've read in quite a while, called Black Tranny White Boy.
Well, that pretty much sums up the story, doesn't it?
I like titles that tell me exactly what I'm getting into. The author's name is Kiera Brooks. I was not able to find the author anywhere else. So unless, this person's writing under different spelling, something like that, I would definitely like to encourage this author to write more, because she's got certain elements of this kind of humiliation story down really well. It's a quick story, and it's a white man who's been online looking to just hook up and get laid, and he sees pictures of a black woman that turned him on a lot, and he starts wondering why he hasn't ever hooked up with a black girl. And then he figures out that the black girl has got a big black dick, so he starts trading insults with the black tranny, and that ultimately turns into her coming to his house. And, the important notes here, first time tranny, you're appealing to a straight male. Straight, I'm doing quotation marks with my finger.
In the air.
Male.
My dick's twitching. That's my version of quotation marks in the air.
There you go. that there's this whole forced gay element that she's writing it real well. So shame and anger are important to note in the story. A lot of forced gay stories where the authors don't explore those two things enough. And, it's a gray area because, unfortunately, as authors, we do have to actually be careful about writing non-consensual or rape things for publishers, because if it's not romance, it gets pulled.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute.
Right? This story goes there. It even uses the word rape, and I'm going to say it was super well done. It was super hot. I think that might be the reason it's only on Smashwords, because of the word rape. The white guy rapes the black tranny first because he's in like a fit of rage, like, fuck you, I'm not a faggot. But of course, it's super hot, and once he's done, the black tranny turns him around and fucks him harder with a much bigger dick. White guy loves it, so he's ruined him for life now. So it's
right. Where do you go from there?
Right, it's hate fucking, and that is extremely hot for a lot of people over a multitude of genres. It's a slippery slope when you got to worry about censorship. But she hit all the right notes with the interracial, as well as forced gay, as well as the whole, oh, fuck, I might actually enjoy dick. So I'm going to give it 4.5 boners, and I hope that Miss Brooks is either writing under a different name or going to write some more.
Right. We took a short, 30-second break so I could go pee, and I invited Chanel to watch, but why didn't you want to come? You just described a story where that was kind of hot.
I've seen men pee, and no, I'm good.
I don't know. Well, if anyone would like to see me pee, ChrisPLove69 at gmail.com. We welcome all your emails and comments and questions about the show, and or invites to see me pee.
You know what's exciting? When a man pees and gets it all in the toilet instead of around the rim and on the floor. That's what it's exciting when you're a woman.
I am a courteous peer. I'm sitting in your house, and I pee here quite frequently. So you never have to clean up after me, usually.
No, I didn't.
No, and it is very disgusting. I spend a lot of time on the road, and
I'd have to spank your bottom if you didn't get it where it was supposed to go.
We're going to take another break again. I'm going to go pee and get it right this time then. So, right.
Was that everything we read this week? I guess it is.
That was everything we read this week. I did want to talk about our salute to America.
Right.
As we travel across the country looking for interesting phrases pointing to geography.
Right? It's like we're back in the 3rd grade again.
Right? Are you smarter than a 3rd grader when it comes to sex phrases?
I'm probably not smarter than a 3rd grader when it comes to geography.
Most people aren't.
I don't remember the capitals of anything. I mean, I think
Boise.
That's Idaho.
Right.
I think I can find everything on a map. I've done that game before where you're supposed to put the states, and I think except for Connecticut, because who cares?
Right. There's 1 million states in a tiny little square up in the Northeast. And they all basically are just cold all the time. So
right. That's just, that's like gloves. That's
right.
What that is. But I can find the states, but I don't know the
on RVs where they put those maps on RVs.
Yeah.
And then you can always tell what states they've been to, because then they're colored in the RV. Yeah. I want to get one of those and put it above my bed so that every state I fucked in, then I put the color it in, right? Yeah.
I think you should do that.
I think it'd be a fun little project for this part of moving forward in this part of my life.
But I don't think you should tell anybody that comes over that you're doing that.
So maybe keep the
right. Just
the
tell
map.
me about it and your dude friends, but I don't think you should tell any new prospective ladies.
Right. Yeah, they may not take that very well if they weren't from Seattle, let's say, or something. So this week we visit New Mexico, and I have 2 from New Mexico. So you've got the New Mexico threesome, And who doesn't like a threesome?
Right.
And the New Mexico threesome is a threesome with 2 women and 1 man, where the 2 women simultaneously finger the dude's butthole.
Wow.
Right? That actually sounds kind of fun.
I never even heard of that.
I didn't either, but I'm like, oh, if I can find 2 women, maybe 2 women that I'm going to make part of my harem.
Right.
And then, because I think dudes get too caught up in the homophobic connotations of butt play.
Well, and then sometimes if you have butt play going on, you lose your boner.
Right.
So you have to time butt play.
You really do, and that is a problem with me because I like butt play, but I do lose my boner during butt play. So then it's like you got to restart, basically.
Right.
Right. So, and that can be awkward. So, 'cause I'm getting up there in years, so.
Right. Got the pill, got the, yeah.
Right.
So the New Mexico threesome.
The New Mexico threesome. So that sounds like fun. Now, we also have the New Mexico window washer.
Oh, now that I got no.
So that is when you blow your man juice onto a fresh towel. And I'm not exactly sure why they specify a fresh towel, but you blow your man juice onto a fresh towel and then wipe it on the girl's face.
Ah, really?
But
why are you doing that on a fresh towel? Why don't you do it on a towel that's already going to get washed?
I don't know, but please notice I am really going out of my way not to find things that reference poo.
You know what? I'm very proud of you.
Because the first 8 episodes are every state fetish. It seemed to have poo involved.
We were starting to think that all Americans were into poo, but no. Good job on not having poo play.
Thanks, because I try to make you happy.
Right.
So I did want to
boy.
Right. I did want to talk a little bit about this thing I'm finding very disturbing in romance. And as I was doing my romance research this week, I came across an author named Lala Pace. And Lala Pace seems to, besides I'm sure being just a fat cow of a woman who, when she's not typing, is stuffing something in her mouth, not cock, I might add, but probably something with chocolate in it.
Right.
It put out a book not too long ago called Asking for It. And of course, her new book, Begging for It, because she's so original, is coming out next week. But they referenced her as being a very brave writer because she is delving into non-consensual sex.
Oh.
And
like all romance. How is that brave?
Right. Well, what I don't understand is why it's okay for an alpha billionaire to basically rape someone, and yet it's not okay. And I am not in any way saying rape is good, because as twisted as I am, it's not.
Well, but in something that you're reading, it's all fantasy. So in fantasy, it should be whatever you think of should be okay.
It absolutely, but I don't understand why the connotation is she's brave, because she's writing about, basically a woman getting forced to have sex against her will, and then it's good. It just doesn't seem right.
It is a double
because
standard.
It's under romance,
right? It's a double standard. But Harlequin romances have been borderline rape ever since there was Harlequin romances. I mean, if you just look at the covers, it's always a much bigger, much more powerful man and a smaller woman, and he's manhandling her. That's the typical cover.
And ripping her bodice off.
Ripping off her clothes. And in the beginning, if the sex scene, it's always like, no, I shouldn't, I can't, blah, 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 blah. And then that turns into this mind-blowing whatever. But it always starts off as no. And that's been the formula for romance since there was a romance book.
They did reference that she got the formula. I mean,
right.
One of the romance blogs is this woman knows the formula for non-consensual sex.
Right. And then, so you have a slippery slope there, because one woman is reading that going, oh, God, I wish I had some guy, doing this to me. And then, the same woman has had something awful happen to her, and that's like a trigger. So yeah, rape fantasy, slippery slope, and unfortunately for us smut writers, we don't get anywhere near the leniency that romance writers get. So we have to be super careful that nobody's going, no, 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 because if somebody's crying and saying no, 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 then, well, first of all, it's not hot. But second of all,
crying is not hot.
One of our, or probably all of our retailers will find that offensive.
Of course, it probably doesn't help that, we're basically creating a generation of pussies
Well,
in the United States. Well, I'm going to go and say all over North America because
Canadian pussies.
but try and find a manly dude. And now, of course, their big thing is, you know what, I'm just going to grow a beard and that'll be manly enough. But, if you spend all your time like crocheting and like talking about a summer shanty, how much of a man are you?
Well, that's a good question. But now, does raping a woman and taking her against her will, does that make you a man? Not so much.
No, it doesn't. But I think it's adding to why romance writers are writing this, because they're trying to write a strong, manly character.
Women miss that.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think there's a big difference between being forceful with your woman and like grabbing her by the waist and, kissing her to the point that you can rip off her blouse and she's like, I'm getting the vapors. To, there's a far cry from there to rape.
Right. I totally agree with you. I had written a couple of notes here about rape fantasies because I was...
Which is our fetish of the week.
There you go. I had noticed that pretty much everything I read this week was rapey on some level.
Well, you write some stuff that's a little rapey.
And everything I write is really rapey, actually.
You've been chastised by publishers for being too rapey.
I have.
yeah. And you're like, no, this isn't rapey enough.
Right? I would say it's not rapey enough. I'm going to say that most people do have some kind of rape fantasy that they're interested in on some level, because according to statistics, 2/3 of women, that's like their big go-to masturbation fantasy, is borderline non-consensual sex. And I know for a fact that there's plenty of men who have the same, that their go-to fantasy is borderline non-consensual. So my question is, if you think about it, why do we get off on something that we're told over and over and over again that's the wrong thing to do?
Well, I think there's two different lines of thinking, though. I mean, why do dudes get off on it versus women? And I think women get off of it, going back to my original point, that there's a bunch of pussies around them and they can't find a real dude to like be a dude in the bedroom.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, and I'm going to stand up for bearded dudes, they've been told their whole life that that's not okay.
And raping a woman is not.
Right.
But there's a big difference between being a giant douche pussy and like spending more time manicuring your beard than taking care of your lady. If you spent more time taking care of your lady, maybe, they wouldn't have to read trash.
If you found someone, let's say that you were in a relationship, which I know leaves you out of the equation, but say,
I'm always searching.
Right. A lot of the reason why a woman that you might be in a relationship with has a rape fantasy is that we are, as women, still raised in a culture where if we want to have sex, we're sluts. Even in 2015, slut shaming is a thing that we have been raised with since before we even had sexual thoughts. We knew that girls who want it are bad and girls who don't like it are good. So rape is the one fantasy where a woman is not responsible for having sex. She can't be a slut because it was put on her against her will. And that's fucking sad that we are in a culture where If we want to have sex, we're sluts. But it's the only way out for a woman, really, to have sex without being a slut.
This is true. The double standard is still alive, and it's not right.
Exactly. And the other side of that coin is it's a desirability factor. Because as a woman, you're also brought up in a culture where your looks are the most important thing about you. Being desirable and being wanted by a man is like front and center, regardless of your education, regardless of your job, whatever else you're doing. You know, we still live in a culture where what you look like is extremely important. And this fantasy where, you know, a man sees you and you're so hot that he can't help himself, this level of desirability, women want that. They need that. They're told all day long, you know, in everything they read and everything on the internet, like, oh, you're not sexy enough. So
it keys into a very subconscious part of their brain,
right?
doesn't it?
So a rape fantasy is, guy can't help it. He just, you're too sexy.
Right. Let me know how that works out in court. Right.
And then the other side of that coin is fight or flight. Biologically, when you're afraid, the same, you know, chemical reaction is going on in your body as when you're turned on. You're breathing harder. Your eyes, your pupils are dilated. The blood is flowing quicker and to your sex organs as well as everywhere else. You're on high alert, but you're
Works
also
out
turned
pretty
on.
well for me.
Right?
I like them when they're a little scared.
Getting the blood flow is important to everyone.
Right.
So, yeah, if you're into rape fantasy, or if you're with someone who's into a rape fantasy, which the chances of, if you're a dude and you're with a woman, she's got a little bit of that going anyway. I think that I would say proceed with caution, because it's one of those role plays that even if you really know what your partner really, really wants, you can trigger something else that could be really, really awful. And then once you've let the cat out of the bag, there's like no going back.
Well, and it really goes back to communication, right? And we stress this every week.
I do think that rape fantasy is one of those things that maybe even, you know, even if you talk about it, you got to be so careful, because you could really, really fuck someone up, like where they go to therapy afterwards.
Here's the thing too, and you need to know your partner's background. If, heaven forbid, she was actually involved in an altercation in college or something that...
And quite often, those are the people that want to reenact,
because they sexualize the trauma.
Exactly. And what they really, they haven't dealt with that yet. And then it turns them on to think about it. But because it's still such a hot button.
So be very, very careful if you're going to enact this scenario with your partner and understand.
It's like, you know, daddy-daughter role play. If your woman was actually molested, it's kind of like dynamite in a match.
You're just right, and you do not want to be around that when it goes. You really don't. I've been in some situations. Not pretty, my friends.
Well, and it's interesting that, so much of our... culturally, so much of what we read, and if we watch porn, so much of what's hot, you know, they escalate movies now to the point where most of them are pretty much all rapey movies. Because there's so much free porn out there that if they're making you pay for it, they got to make it as bad as they can make it.
Well, I think we're becoming desexualized to the point, or, you know, we're desensitized to the sexualization. So it's everything's getting dialed up more and more and more.
Right.
And you were talking to me last week about a group of people that, if like forced chastity or their what are they doing, because they've seen everything now and been involved in a lot that they're just not having sex anymore.
Oh, like they're just asexual?
Right, asexual people, right?
Yeah, and because that's kind of like the new extreme, maybe. The guys who aren't masturbating.
Right,
That's what we're
it.
talking about. This movement towards not masturbating at all, which is, I'm just going to go out there and say, totally fucking crazy.
Right.
Why wouldn't you masturbate? However, I do think, and probably because these people have taken it way too far, like we seem to take everything, if you feel like you are addicted to porn, i.e., you would prefer to watch porn over having real sex with a real person, now you got a problem.
I don't understand why we just can't get back to the days of getting addicted to drugs and booze.
Right?
Why is everything a sickness now? I'm addicted to flatbread. I can't eat gluten. I'm stupid Cheerios commercial with the old man hanging out with his daughter-in-law who apparently, created Cheerios so that they can make it gluten-free.
I'm pretty sure.
Fuck you, old man. What's wrong with it? I'm 62 years old. My birthday was last week, too. But I am, right? I'm 62 years old, and I am still walking around. I'm probably chock full of gluten.
Well, there you go.
Stupid.
You're a real American.
Right? God bless America. Because you know what? 16 ounces of Coke is not enough. I want a 44-ounce jug I carry around in my minivan.
You like jugs.
I am a breast man. I do like the breasts very much.
Yeah.
So anyone who would like to send us pictures of your breasts to chrisplove69@gmail.com, we welcome any and all emails.
How do you weigh in on obviously really enormous plastic-looking boob jobs?
I do not like the plastic-looking aspect of it. I do like enormous boobs, however, and why wouldn't you?
Enormous natural boobs that are all saggy?
I would take that over plastic-looking ones.
Okay, so saggy. If you have saggy breasts, please do not send pictures of them too.
No, you can send those.
I was just doing your thing.
Right? Because we don't want any of that stuff sent here to where someone might see it accidentally and have to keep their pants off a little bit longer.
Right, exactly. Take it into the bathroom and then
No, I don't do that. I don't do that in the bathroom. I do my business and get out. Okay. Now, your second bedroom, on the other hand, totally different.
Oh, good to know.
Right, you may want to get the quilt looked at.
Okay.
Get that
for evidence.
Right. Well, no, definitely get it clean. We don't want my DNA anywhere around where someone might be able to steal it. Get framed for something I did not do.
For non-consensual sex.
Right. I am of the generation of I am a gentleman. So she has to say yes, and then I will be forceful and rip her bodice off and take her the way American man should take a woman. Right. Leaving her spent and happy on the bed with just enough energy to make me a sandwich.
That's perfect.
That's what I say. I'm glad you agree. I will help clean up.
Oh, I actually feel exactly the same way. I, won't do anything against anyone's will until they're tied up, and then I'm going to do whatever I want to.
Right. But no, I think it's true. You won't do anything against anyone's will. And when you were working in the dungeon, you talked about how you would lay out the scenes with your clients before that because of these things, right?
Yeah, you don't want to freak someone out.
No, you don't want them going all ham while they're hogtied on the floor covered in urine. Right? That's not good for the other patrons.
And that's not good for business.
No.
You want someone to come back.
Repeat clientele is what it's all about.
Right. You don't want to have to keep looking for new people. You want to fuck the same ones over and over and over.
Right. Well, I had somebody went early in my career in sales. Somebody told me, look, you can get a really big sale and lose that client forever, or you can bleed them a little bit week in, week out, week in, week out. And it's a win-win for everybody. So, well, this has been a great show this week, and we really appreciate all you listeners. And we welcome any and all listener comments to chrisplove69@gmail.com.
Because he really does.
I do. And then Chanel and I read them to each other. And next week we'll have more stories, more listener content with our fetish of the week and our listener question of the week. And questions, comments, chrisplove69@gmail.com. Chanel, I hope you have a really good week.
You too, Crispy.
Bye, Chanel.
Bye.